Alrighty, so what we're looking at here is all of my 6mm cartridges that I load for. So on our left here, we have 6mm ARC, we have 6mm BRA, 6mm GT, and then on the very far right, or the longest one, we have 6 Creedmoor. Now, people are probably wondering, why do I have all these different 6mm cartridges? Well, number one is I really like 6mm. I have a bunch of bullets. They're fun to shoot. They're easy to shoot. They're not real expensive, and generally they shoot really well. Now, what I want to do in this video is talk about the purposes or why you might go with one of these cartridges. Now, starting out with the easy ones, we've got 6mm ARC. Now, obviously, if it's the only one of these that has a different size case head, so this is based off the 6.5 Grendel, so it's got that smaller case head that you can run in an AR-15. So if you're going with a gas gun or an AR-15, this is pretty much your only option. I believe these other three here, you'd have to go AR-10, which is a lot less common. So if you're going to go with an AR-15, you got to go 6 ARC. And I think that's kind of the claim to fame there. Now, I've got it in a bolt gun, and I've been able to push this with Varget and the 108 grain ELD out of a 22-inch barrel up to about 2,700 feet per second. Now, I consider this a pretty hot load, and we did have some pressure signs. Now, what I want to do is talk about kind of some published load data. I looked at Hodgkin load data, and they pretty much have load data for all these cartridges except for 6BRA. Now, they do have some weird 6BR data that we'll talk about, but essentially we'll take one source and we'll talk about load data so to give you an idea of what velocities you might expect. So, with their load data, they list for the 6 ARC a 103 grain bullet with Varget at about 2,608 feet per second out of a 24-inch tube, and that looked like it was at the 52,000 pressure. So potentially could push this a little higher in a bolt gun. They also list the 107 with Varget at about 2,541 out of that same 24-inch barrel at that same pressure. So you're talking probably somewhere around 2,500 to 2,700 feet per second with the 6 ARC, depending on whether you go heavy, whether you go bolt gun, whatever. If you want to do some of the other powders like Lever Evolution or something like that, you might be towards the top. The good powders like Varget, you may be more like 2,650, depending on your barrel length, of course. Then we've got 6BRA here. Now, this is the newest one to me, and my 6BRA is a 28-inch barrel, so seems like most of the BRA shooters go with a pretty long barrel to get some extra velocity. Now, we've got that 308 case head, so just a little bit wider than 6 ARC, but about the same length. Now, again, load data is a little weird for this, I think because it's a BR cartridge. Well, BRA is not a SAMI cartridge, so there's no data for it anyway. But if you just look at 6BR, they list a 105 grain bullet with some of the accurate powders at 2,800 to about 2,600 feet per second out of a 26-inch tube. So what we're looking at here with BRA is going to be just a little bit more velocity than 6mm ARC. I've been running it at about 2,800, just over 2,800 feet per second with Varget and the 105 hybrid. And that's probably not a max load. We could probably push this up a little higher. So probably going to be somewhere like 2,700 to 2,900, depending on bullet and what you're pushing it. Then we've got the 6GT here. So 6GT, same case head size as the BR and the BRA, just a longer case. And Lapua just announced that they're going to start making brass for the GT, which I think will help it out a lot. Now, again, if we look at that load data, they list a 105 grain pill with Varget at 2,892 out of a 24-inch barrel. I believe the load I settled on with 6GT was about 2,900 feet per second, again, out of a 24-inch barrel with the 105 hybrid. So, again, based on published load data, you're probably going to be around 2,900 feet per second. You could go with some of the less temp stable, like the ball powders, and you could push this probably up to 3,000 feet per second, but that's going to be on the top end. Now, all the way on the right is our fastest cartridge here, and this is now when we're kind of starting to move to a little bit different burn rate of powder. If we look at 6 ARC, if we look at BRA, they're more in the Varget, Reloader 15, maybe even some of the 8208 XBR, stuff like that. And then as we move up to GT, and especially the Creedmoor, we start to get into some of the slower powders like H4350. I think you can even run 4831 SC and 6 Creedmoor. But anyway, so load data wise, same source, 105 grain with H4350. They're talking about 3,071 feet per second out of the 6 Creedmoor, and that's out of a 24-inch barrel. So essentially, if you want that maximum speed, you're going to have to go with that 6 Creedmoor. Now, obviously, the drawback to this is more recoil, more powder burn, and obviously less barrel life. So I believe most people consider 6 Creedmoor to be a really, really big time barrel burner, where some of these other ones maybe not as much. As we work towards the left side there, we're going to probably get more barrel life because we have less speed, less powder, so on and so forth. Now, as far as loads, I think I did 27 grains of Varget in the 6 arc. 30.1 grains in the BRA, 34 grains in the GT, which those three were all loaded with Varget, and then I can't remember my 6 Creedmoor load, but it was using H4350, and I haven't worked as much with it. So, in my opinion, the only reason you'd go with that 6 Creedmoor is if you really need that smoke and fast velocity. Maybe you're using this as a hunting cartridge and you want that more energy on target. You're not going to shoot as much, so maybe go 6 Creedmoor. My favorite out of these three right now is going to be that BRA. We've got less powder burn, which is obviously good because components are expensive, less recoil, and to me, I've found it to be the easiest to load. Now, this isn't an apples-to-apples comparison because my GT barrel is a Seekins barrel that I got from them. The BR barrel is a Krieger, so obviously the Krieger is probably a little superior, so that might be why I've found it easier to load for. And then my ARC is in a Savage, so again, that Krieger barrel is probably going to be better than the other ones. But looking at it, if you don't need a ton of speed and you're wanting that Lapua brass, you're going to have to go with the BRA right now. Now, soon that will be available in GT, and the GT's been a good round. Now, the difference between these two mainly comes because of the magazine. So, GT is supposed to feed through a regular 308 mag. I have not found that to be the case all the time. Seems like it can be a little picky depending on the gun and the magazine. Now, the nice thing about the BR is there's big time magazine issues if you're using a 308 mag, but there are a lot of different options as far as BR specific mags or mag kits that to me have made it a little bit easier to deal with as far as trying to figure out what to do versus the GT. Again, the GT was designed to use in a regular 308 mag, but your results may vary with that. The BR, again, has BR specific mags. Your results may vary with that. 6 ARC seems to feed really good in my Savage out of the MDT mag. And then obviously 6 Creedmoor, it's pretty long. It's like a 308 length, so it should feed just fine. So there's going to be drawbacks. There's going to be pros and cons to all of these. Right now, if I could only choose one, I'd go with the BRA. That's just my experience. You guys' results may vary, but I basically wanted to take this video to compare all of these. Someone who shot them all, I've had them all, shot many rounds through all of them. Maybe only like 150 rounds through 6 Creedmoor and BRA, but got a lot of experience with both of them. So that kind of breaks down the difference between these cartridges and why you may or may not want them. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.